Okay, so the assignment, just very quickly, keep in mind we have the presentation on November 23rd. That's the week after next, the week of Thanksgiving. And then this is the day I want to talk about, but keep in mind this business canvas final version is due this day as well. But this is the commercialization plan, and we're going to do a discussion of these instructions for this. Now, what's the idea here is to develop the commercialization plan for your final presentation. So this is the instructions. So all the instructions are already here. Take a look at it. I will also post it on Canvas. So I want to talk about this briefly first. Now, this is probably very new to all of us as engineers, so I want you to think about this a little bit. So the business model canvas is simple. You all know this. You've already done this. And as I said before, you have to submit the revised version of this. Make sure you interview at least 3 people. That's the idea. Okay. The final presentation is due in class on December 9th, which is the business plan. But I forgot to mention one other thing, which I'm going to put it, is you also need to submit what I'm calling a video pitch, which is due the next day. It's a very, very brief explanation of your idea. Okay, and I'll talk about what that means shortly. So let's go through the different sections of the commercialization plan. And this is what I expect to see. First, there's a brief elevator pitch for your company. So think about this as an executive summary. Okay, so think about this as your team project is your startup, and you're trying to make a brief summary explanation of it. By the way, what does an elevator pitch mean? For those of you who may not know, it's basically an example where if you accidentally get into an elevator with venture capitalists and you have 30 or 60 seconds to explain your idea to them, this is the opportunity to do it. So literally you take 30 or 60 seconds to explain your concept. Yeah. So this is the presentation you gave right before Thanksgiving? No. This is December 9th. Yes, very last presentation on the last day of class. Yeah, I'm just going through this now because this is sometimes hard, takes a little time to kind of do. So, yeah, I'll go back to the schedule. I know it's a little confusing, but if you look at the schedule and Canvas, it'll all be there. The second part is the go-to-market strategy. What does this mean? You have to answer these questions. So you can start thinking about this, but we will try to go through these on November 30th. So who will be your customers? Describe your engagement discussion with them today. So if you have interviewed anybody, have you validated their needs? What does that mean? That means have you understood what the problem is and what you're trying to solve? Does what you're trying to solve match with their problem? If not, it's okay, but understanding that. Somehow think about, how they, will they buy from you, example, things like that. How will you acquire the customer? So a lot of the answers to these will come from the Canvas as well. So this is intimately linked to the Canvas, but I want you to kind of explicitly make that connection. Number 3 is the market industry analysis. This is fairly, I would say, systematic. You go do a literature search. You can go to the library, as the librarians will help. They have, as university students, you have access to all kinds of market reports and so on. And you don't need to go through this careful in any great detail, but you need to get the headlines. You need to get the main numbers. How large is the market? And you can't just say, oh, I'm doing water desalination. Everybody needs water, so it's 9 billion people on the planet. So you can calculate. But that wouldn't make much sense. You need to kind of understand, okay, you're making a water desalination system for people who are going on 2-hour hikes. So what is roughly in the market for that? So kind of try to dig in. And that's important because that affects your technology development and design as well. What market segments are you going after and why? Why did you make this choice? Is the market growing? Like how fast? Some dynamics, some understanding. You just have to show that you have spent a little bit of time understanding what you're doing. How will you displace incumbents, right? How did Uber displace taxi companies? Not a great model, but that's an example. What is your channel partnership strategy? If there are any. Again, these will obviously come from the Canvas. So make that explicit connection. And the most important part, of course, as engineers, we're interested in the technical product. Okay, so you have to kind of briefly describe this product. This will come from your presentation 4, so you can kind of borrow from that. So make sure you think about this. Validation, do you have any evidence, which might be simulations, calculations, whatever, or if you built a demo, or future validation plans. What are the remaining risks to be retired, but what more product development needs to be done, and have some understanding of how this could be done in the future if this became a startup. So think really kind of didactically, I would say. What are the advantages for customers versus other options? If you have IP issues, how will you protect it? It doesn't, patents don't need to be the only way. There are other ways to do it as well, trade secrets, but think about it. And you can reach out to the Pivot Center, Paul Corson, and others. Also just email me if you want contacts. There are lots of folks there that you can reach out to get feedback and information about this. Okay, this part is probably the hardest part for most of you, if you're like me. It's economics. Very simple financial plan. I posted a link to a couple of articles which give you some templates that you can start using. But this will take a little time if you're not familiar with accounting. So trying to understand this, you don't need to have very deep understanding, but you need to understand where the money is going. So think about it from that perspective. So, fairly high level, but you have to do it because I want you to have that experience. Also think about, okay, if you're going to raise funding, and I think we talked about a little bit grants, whether there's venture funding, whatever, but kind of understand, okay, what milestone will need to get more funding, kind of think through the plan of how you might execute on this. And finally, probably most importantly, your team, but that you don't have much choice. So since I assigned you team, so less important from this perspective, but you have to say who you are. Okay. Yeah, so we talked about the business canvas. Again, just make sure this is done, right? Wait, oh yeah, this is done. You just need to do the last two. Just again, interview potential customers, show them what you're trying to do, get some feedback. Doesn't have to be just customers, can be partners or just people who might be able to give you some informed feedback, experts. Show revised version of Canvas. That's due after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is a good opportunity to do some of this market research. This is the final assignment, assignment 8, which is the video pitch. Is due on Friday, December 10th, is the day after the last day of class. I'm just giving you an extra day. But you can, the idea is to create a very, very brief, as brief as possible, 90 seconds to 3 minutes maybe. It's an elevator pitch for your company. You can make this a demo. In the past, people have just taken a video of what they did. It can be a simulation. It can be a combination of these things. It can be a narrated slides as well. So you can do any of these, some combination of these. Just think creatively, think carefully. You want to, this is just an exercise for you to practice how you communicate technology and technological innovation. I just want you to at least have one experience doing that. And that's it. So I've already posted the instructions, and so let's go back here so we don't get confused. So assignment 7 is the business canvas final version is due after Thanksgiving. Okay. And on this day, November 30th, and I'll post more instructions later, there won't be a lecture. We'll actually do this on Zoom. I'm gonna meet with each of the teams individually, and we're gonna go through the commercialization plan just to make sure that you're on the right track. So we'll divide up the time, and I'll try to assign it so you don't have to stay for the whole time. Then, yeah, so you all know about that, and this is a presentation, the commercialization plan presentation that I just talked about. And this is the financial modeling articles that I posted, which has some templates on them that I just mentioned. And assignment 8 is a very short video pitch, is due the following day. I'm just giving an extra day to submit it. That you can submit on Canvas or Slack or email. Okay, any questions? I don't see anything on chat.